Hey, did you know that Christmas is right around the corner? Of course you do. This is America. And in the spirit of the holidays, Geass Lost Stories released a Christmas event containing 3 new characters. But are these characters worth spending your resources to summon? Let's find out as I go through them. Santa Colin is a rank 4 special type pilot whose placement cost ranges from 12 to 5 depending on how you level her up. By the way, that art is awful. I hope her spine's okay. Colin has 3 abilities. Her first 2 abilities relate to when she's deployed. She increases your cost by 11, and at max level it becomes 14. Since she has the whirlwind icon, this indicates she has a blowaway ability, only this time it pulls enemies to you? And her last ability is the impressive feat, a fast relocation time of 29.2%, which becomes 38.8% when maxed out. For comparison, her relocation time is the same as Jeremiah, but he increases your cost by 25 on deployment, and Ash for Colin increases your cost by 19 on deployment. Her blowaway effect seems to be a reverse of Cornelia. In terms of her battle stats, they are quite solid, with the melee being substantially higher than her range, so best to use her in a melee nightmare frame. Moving on, Reindeer Suzaku is a rank 4 assault pilot whose cost ranges from 9 to 6. Suzaku is, how do you put this?
Amazing!
He also has 3 abilities. On deployment, you get 2 instant effects. He deals 4 times his attack to 5 enemies, and at max level does 5.5 times his attack against 5 enemies. And he increases your cost from 19 to 25 depending on the level. His other ability is the same as Colin, where he has the same quick relocation time. For comparison, Vampire Jeremiah only attacks 3 enemies when placed, and that attack is 3.75 times his max attack. And even when you look at his maxed out stats, it's still significantly lower than Suzaku's. Speaking of stats, Suzaku's are pretty good in both melee and range, which means you could use either one for him. Although given his HP absorption attack, it's probably best to use a ranged nightmare frame to, get the most out of it. Finally, we have Nunnally, a rank 3 special unit whose cost ranges from 12 to 5, I think. Oh, and of the 3, her art is clearly the best. Nunnally is the only character here that's not summoned through a banner, but instead acquired through spending your unique currency that you get from the event. She has 3 abilities. The first is Santa Colin's, the second is an obligatory faction reduction cost, and the third is a reduction of her own placement cost. So, theoretically, she might be able to place herself on the battlefield for free, assuming you max her out. Her stats are quite decent, I guess, and definitely suited for a ranged nightmare frame. Okay, let's go through my thoughts on each of the characters. Santa Colin is extremely underwhelming. Her abilities and stats pale in comparison to Ash for Colin. Also, because you'll be summoning her quite often on the battlefield because she has a low cost and fast relocation time, I can imagine scenarios where you have to place her in a corner to avoid potentially pulling in units you didn't really want to. If the ability was the standard blowaway, there wouldn't be an issue here. In general, I'm not a fan of the blowaway gimmick. It does have its uses, but generally speaking, it seems very niche and there's always better options available. Overall, I dislike this character, including the art, the stats, the abilities, the entire package, and since I have Ash for Colin, it seems kind of pointless to summon for this character. What's annoying is that if I want to try and get Suzaku, I have to potentially risk getting her. Decisions. Suzaku, on the other hand, is amazing. He's basically a fusion between the original Jeremiah and Vampire Jeremiah, but even better since his abilities are even stronger than Vampire Jeremiah. So theoretically, Suzaku could replace both of them on one team, despite not having the Halloween faction reduction ability. He also has a fast relocation time. Essentially, with this one character, they have rendered many stable characters that came out before potentially obsolete. If I can stomach the possibility of summoning Santa Colin, then I will try to summon him. When I look at the design for Christmas Nunnally and taking everything in consideration about her character, all I can think is,
this was the best you could do?
She's basically useless outside of supporting the Christmas faction, so she's free though to acquire, so I guess it's worth getting her for that reason alone. Nunnally and Santa Colin are best used on a team where you use several Millies and Nina to reduce the cost of your Ashford Camo units, so essentially you can make Colin become free to place. You could of course also include Suzaku here. Other than that, I don't see why you'd ever want to use Santa Colin over say the Ashford Colin or of course Jeremiah. As a whole, I'm very underwhelmed by the characters in this event. The Halloween one by comparison had 4 characters that we got, 3 of whom became meta relevant. At the time, I didn't have any issues between getting either Witch Valletta or Mask of the Opera Lelouch, as both were really good. Here, it's not the case. As I just mentioned, I don't want to get Santa Count. I want the new Suzaku. And even with Suzaku, the abilities don't seem that unique. It's more like they just took some previous established ones and combined it with him. By comparison, with Valletta, they gave her healing abilities and Lelouch a fast relocation time, which are quite interesting considering both are annihilators, so that was kind of unique when they came out. Of course, you also have Valletta's shield and Lelouch's cloak ability, which is really broken. Before I choose to summon a character, I often ask myself a question. Could I proceed in the game fine without them? And the answer is yes, I generally don't summon them. So in this case, given the characters that I currently have, there's really no need to summon these characters. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that I do have Vampire Jeremiah, and I also have Mask of the Opera Lelouch. So for me personally, it doesn't make sense to go after these characters, or I should say, make it a high priority to go after these characters. If I had just started this game, then probably I would go ham on this banner because these are really good characters, but I already have a strong base to work on, and I assume that people who are playing this game do as well, and that's the case, and I can kind of confidently say that, like, these are great characters, but I don't think they're the same level as the Halloween characters, which is a shame. With that in mind, I'm probably going to wait until they announce the new character we're going to get in the New Year's Eve banner. Hopefully, that's revealed before this banner ends. Which means if I am going to try some of these characters, it's going to be towards the end of the event. And by doing this, it guarantees that I don't accidentally put too much resource into this banner, where I wasn't too enthusiastic about the characters, where actually there's something even better coming along, like potentially a new C2. And those are my thoughts on the new Christmas banner / event for Lost Stories. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about this banner? Are you going to summon these characters? Are you going to skip the banner? And more importantly, if you haven't played Lost Stories yet, and you want to get into the game right now, click on this video right here for a guide on how to download the game.